Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Even our OP, who believed that even the worst client could be a normal person on the most terrible day of his life, could not stand Karen's rudeness in our first story. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The Karen with the left-handed bag. I was working at a Tim Hortons in my youth, think 19 to 20 years old, and I prided myself on polite and courteous service. I was always cheerful and tried my best to fill orders promptly. I managed this by telling myself that even the worst customer could just be a normal person on the most terrible day of their life. I usually brightened people's days and saw many grumpy people leave happier because of me. Until the Karen came in. I was dealing with a lunch rush, which means for several hours, people stream in as if food and drink had never existed and will never exist again. So there were a lot of people to get through. A lot. So under these conditions, the Karen showed herself. She was belligerent, rude, and had a truly massive order to fill. Nothing I couldn't handle. However, she had several drinks ordered, think 8 different beverages, and she had 3 dozen donuts. Which is fine, nothing out of the ordinary. But she had to have them specifically in a certain order in the boxes, and this took time as she ordered me about. No problem. I've dealt with weirder things while working there. The line, however, was backing up while I was serving her, and her true colors were starting to show as I filled her order. Then we get to checkout. I start to ring her up, she changes her order, 3rd time again, and wants to add 4 sandwiches. I say, ma'am, could we ring the drink and donuts through first? Until I ring you through completely, it ties up a cash register. The Karen screeches, I won't pay more taxes on my order. You won't cheat me. I stare rather dumbfounded at this logic. I tried to argue with her saying, ma'am, this won't increase your taxes. It's just faster. The Karen interrupts, no, I won't be cheated, you hear me? And I shoot a deeply apologetic glance at my coworkers who are now, regretfully, dealing with the crowd with 1 less cash register, then proceed to head to the deli to make her sandwiches as fast as I physically can, so I can get back to the counter. The Karen smugly chides and reproaches me while I make her order, telling me, you're making the sandwich wrong, and tries several times to order me about as if I were a complete idiot. As I'm finishing my 2nd sandwich for this woman, I'm getting irritated with her attitude. I, still politely, inform her that I have to assemble the sandwiches in a certain order. I even have a physical chart to follow me. I could get fired for not following the chart. She harumphs at me while muttering under her breath about how no one respects their elders anymore and F you, and more angrily, B, when I'm beginning the 4th sandwich. My sunny disposition was leaving me at this point. This woman obviously had no respect for me, thinks I'm incompetent, and doesn't care if she insults me. So impulsively, I came up with a plan as I finished up the 4th and final sandwich. Smacking my head, I say, oh, I almost forgot. The Karen grumbles, forgot what? I say, well, we have a new promotional offer, and I almost forgot to ask you about it. You see, Tim Hortons has been doing ergonomic studies and has found that right-handed people and left-handed people hold bags differently. The Karen looked interested, so I continue. So with these findings, they designed ergonomic bags for their customers as a promotional offer. Would you like to participate? The Karen huffed at me. Of course I want to participate. I give my best customer service smile and say, okay, would you like a left-handed bag or a right-handed bag? The Karen looks offended. A right-handed one, of course. I say, of course, ma'am, and duck down below the counter to quietly rummage through the completely identical bags I have. I decide to take the whole thing a step further, and I pop back up with a look of pure regret on my face. I'm so sorry, ma'am, we only have left-handed bags left. Is that okay? The Karen's upset with this turn of events, but does not wish to lose out on the promotion. Fine, she says icily and grabs her order. I ring her through and watch her walk out the door with complete satisfaction in my soul. The added cherry, I heard her complaining about her left-handed bag to her friend as she walked out with her order, and the confused look on her friend's face was priceless as this woman bitched and moaned about this completely made-up problem. I never did anything like this before or since. She was a special kind of a-hole. The Karen with the left-handed bag. No need for Karen's discomfort. She didn't need to carry that bag herself. She could have gotten a skyhook. Of course, it better be a right-handed skyhook. And our second story. I do work here. We've literally been working together all day. So several years ago, I worked as a spirits consultant in a rather large regional liquor store. While the title may sound glamorous, apart from the occasional perk or being able to try a new whiskey while on the clock, I was basically a glorified cashier. I'd just been moved to another store following a rather catastrophic falling out with a coworker at my original store who decided the best way to train me was to corner me in the warehouse and scream at me about how I was an utter failure and would never amount to anything in life. A story for another time. I'd subsequently been moved to another location roughly the same distance from my home. On my first day, I was quickly introduced to the store's management staff, as well as the floor crew covering everything else. It was midweek, ordering was done, and it was a slow store, so I spent the majority of my time rotating bottles in the aisles or up front by the cashiers. It was that kind of store. In truth, that first shift we'd had, maybe 20 customers store-wide over 9 hours, hardly a rough shift, and there wasn't much to do. So my end of shift time rolls around, and I decided to grab a 12-pack with my oh-so-generous 10% employee discount and take it up to the register, manned by a cashier I've literally been talking to all day. And then she asked for my ID. I'm in full company uniform, logo and all. We've been working together the entire shift. Bear in mind, this is a company that requires all employees to be 21 at a minimum. Even customers have to be 21 to step foot in the building and buy potato chips. There's no way I'm underage. I ask if she's serious. She reiterates that she isn't sure if I'm of age and is required to check. I stare at my coworker, who clearly isn't all there, and hand over an ID, which is where things get even more stupid. See, at the time, my company had a policy that if you were under 25, a manager had to approve that your ID wasn't fake. So my coworker, in her infinite wisdom, calls for a manager. The very same manager who'd introduced me to the entire staff a few hours ago. He comes over, seemingly confused, and asks what the issue is. She replies, maybe slowly realizing the stupidity of the situation she herself has created, simply murmurs, "I can't be sure if he's 21. The manager glances between her, me, the 12-pack of Coors, her, me, the 12-pack again, her again, and back to me, before telling me to just take the pack on the house and come back tomorrow. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but I never worked with her again. I wonder if she got chewed out before and was just being maliciously compliant? Or maybe I've been reading too much Reddit. Probably just on autopilot. And our last story. Towed my ex-neighbor's car because they kept parking in my spot. I, 21-year-old female, live right on the edge of my city's downtown. Parking's scarce. Or should I say, free parking is scarce. I lived in an old house converted into 8 apartment units, and it had its own mini parking lot with 8 spots for the tenants. I had a neighbor, female, who got a job working nights a few blocks away from our apartment, which worked out great because she could just walk to work and didn't have to pay for parking. F didn't renew her lease when it was up and moved out to a nicer apartment farther away. I noticed that F was still parking in her old spot, but it was taking forever to fill her old apartment, so I didn't really care because no one else was parking there. Well, they finally found a new tenant about 2 weeks ago, and he's been filling that parking space. Well, unlucky for me, I happened to get off work right after F starts work, and she has continued parking in our lot, which means that I don't have a place to park when I get home. I've been having to park on the street and pay for parking until I notice that she's gone, and then I move my car back to my spot. I finally caught F after her shift a couple days ago and let her know that she needed to stop parking in the lot now that we have a new tenant, because she was parking in my space, and it was really inconvenient for me to have to pay for parking at my own home, and that I'm pregnant, so the walk from the street up to the back entrance of the house was getting hard for me. F apologized and said that she really can't afford to pay for parking for her whole shift, but she wouldn't park there anymore. Cue the next day. I get home from work, and lo and behold, her car is parked in my spot again. I'm not gonna lie, I was angry. I was really tired, and my back and feet were killing me. I just wanted to go inside and take a hot bath. I called my fiance, and he called a tow truck. The guy came and took her car, and I pulled my car in and went inside. At about 6 a.m., F started pounding on my door. When I answered, she started screaming at me, asking where her car was. She said she just worked a 14-hour shift because one of the morning shift had called out, and she was exhausted and needed to get home. I told her that her car was at the tow yard and that I was also tired and needed my parking spot. She started screaming and told me that I needed to drive her there and pay to get her car back because she can't afford it and couldn't get home without it. I told her tough luck. She shouldn't have parked in my spot when I asked her not to, and she'll need to figure it out herself and shut the door. She stayed out there for another 30 minutes before she left. I don't know where she went after that, but I've been getting a lot of crap from other neighbors and mutual friends, we went to the same high school, for leaving her stranded, and apparently she still hasn't gotten her car 2 days later because she doesn't get paid until Saturday, so she had to take the bus to and from work. Edit. I should mention that the landlord does have signs up saying private parking violators will be towed at owner's expense, so while I didn't specifically say that I would tow her for parking in my spot, she did know it was a possibility. Edit again, sorry. A neighbor caught someone they didn't recognize keying my car this morning when they left for work. Person apparently ran off before they finished. I no longer have sympathy for this girl. She can figure it out herself. She just learned a very expensive lesson in parking violations. Why wasn't she parking in someone else's spot in the lot? Because she knew you and didn't think you'd blink. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.